me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out at the old ball game.
Welcome to Let's Get To, the baseball podcast from the fan's perspective. Now here's your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get To. I'm your host, James Christopher, and I'm coming from center field of the Bismarck Municipal Ballpark, and it is a beautiful facility. We've already seen one great game because that's right, Let's Get To is here while the Bismarck Bull Moose and the Mandan Flickertails play too. You'll notice I didn't say the Bismarck Larks because Bismarck, in the face of the pandemic, formed a 3-team pod with permission from the Northwoods League. And I think that's awesome. It's been so much fun. It's been a really, really great time being out at the ballpark. I'm not going to be mad at it being 20 degrees cooler than home. But you know what else is fun? The rest of this episode. We're going to be visited with Chris Almendarez, the president of the Round Rock Express, to talk about the conversion to the Hairy Men. We're going to be talking to Victoria Huggins from the Fayatteville Woodpeckers. And we met a wonderful young lady named Bailey Edinburgh, and she is from Dallas, Texas, by way of Oklahoma State University, and she's working for the Bismarck Larks this summer. So we're excited to have everybody on. We're excited to be in Bismarck, showing you the town. So you keep watching. I'm going to go watch some baseball.
From the bleachers, the Let's Get To Game of the Week.
Coming to you from the bleachers in Bismarck Municipal Ballpark, talk a little bit about our experience watching the Bismarck Pod in the Northwest League. There are a lot of people out there who would challenge the notion that baseball is America's pastime. They would look at the MLB's ratings and profits compared to the NFL, the NBA, and other leagues as evidence that fewer and fewer people are baseball devotees. This might be true of the MLB, but as we said on the show, the MLB is not the end-all be-all of baseball. The MLB simply isn't baseball. It isn't the only thing that defines the sport of baseball. Baseball is America's pastime because it exists at high levels throughout all of the country. It is a game that is meant to be experienced live, in person, in a ballpark or a stadium on a beautiful summer day, be it in El Paso, Texas, or Fort Myers, Florida, or Bismarck, North Dakota. And that is what has me on the road to see America through the eyes of the best game ever created. You see, it's a game played all over the country, from the biggest cities to the smallest towns, and it provides the best window into our diverse and beautiful country. So that's what took me from Texas to Minnesota to Bismarck, North Dakota to see baseball and so much more. Bismarck Municipal Ballpark is the baseball hub for the Bismarck-Mandan area. It is the ball field of choice for Legion teams, high school teams, colleges, and the Northwest League. Our focus today is 3 teams representing 2 towns, the Bismarck Larks, the Mandan Flickertails, and the Bismarck Bull Moose. 2 of those teams, the Flickertails and the Bull Moose, were created as a reaction to the pandemic. Not every city in the Northwoods League could play, and so they found a way to make baseball happen in the spots where baseball was safer. They were created from top to bottom with branding and a look that stands out amongst baseball's best. Now the field itself is gorgeous, a lush green surface with ivy in right field and a sky that just goes on forever. I love the pine trees beyond the outfield wall that reminds us of where we are. And did I mention the sky? The concourse is a diverse yet intimate setting. All kinds of seating choices to fit your wallet, but still feels like you're part of that same baseball community. Community is the thing we'll keep hearing about when we talk about Bismarck. And even though they created, built, and branded 2 teams pretty much overnight, these teams feel lived in. They have mascots and their own shtick. I saw a harmonica contest between an in-game entertainer and the Flickertail mascot. They used piped-in music for both. The intern got a pretty cool harmonica solo. The Flickertail got the opening to Billy Joel's Piano Man. It feels like when Lord Vader is trying to chase a squirrel up a tree. The squirrel always wins. Not to be outdone, the Bull Moose had an adorable recreation of the Lion King ceremony when Simba gets held up. For those of you listening, I'm trying to do the hold up thing with a kid in a baby moose costume. And again, it goes back to that thing, community. It feels like all the players, the game day staff, and even the umpires realize that when we leave the park after 3 hours, we're faced again with a world that feels uncertain and a little bit scary, and they're doing their best to make it a little less frightening. And speaking of the pandemic, one can't forget that we're living in one, and the Larks were great about reminding you of procedures, both through announcements and signage. Masks are encouraged, sanitizer everywhere, distance markers for social distancing, and encouraging people to stay home if they have symptoms. And I even love that they periodically close the bathrooms for deep cleaning. But at the end of the day, we're there for baseball. And I'll be honest, I don't have much collegiate summer league experience. Another caveat, I don't record the whole game. I come in, I get what I need, and I might record some key moments, but I just want to watch baseball. But I was so impressed with the quality of play. And in particular, the infield defense. Double play after double play, including one with the glove flip that I really wish I'd captured. I know the Larks have it on their Twitter feed, but it was awesome. It was great baseball all the way around, and we will be adding a Northwoods League stop for seasons to come. I think we have Michigan on the slate for 2021. And we will be back to Bismarck. It felt welcoming. I felt like part of the community after being there for only 2 games. And that is something in these times you can't discredit.
So that was from the bleachers for this episode. That was our look at Bismarck Larks. You'll notice that I'm in a different set of clothes representing a different team in this pod. And the Larks gave us this pretty cool face mask. But before we wrap up, I do want to send a special toast out to the Hitter Sports in New York. Holler and a swaller, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, please adjust your scorecards. We have a special guest in the lineup. Brought to you by Zoomer Sport.
I was at the game where he got his nose broke on the ice and blood just everywhere. One of my favorite memories.
Well, that's a perfect way to introduce Bailey Edinburgh to the show. Bailey, first of all, thanks for joining Let's Get To. And it's funny because you're talking a little hockey, and I'm going to include that in the episode, so we're going to get it on record that blood bouncing on ice is one of your favorite memories. Scott McIntyre, who is a big part of this show as well, is a diehard Blues fan. And yeah, but he was so very excited that even I kind of got a little excited. But you and I met. It was sort of cool. So I was at the Bismarck, it was the Bull Moose, I guess, home game, and for somebody that worked. I first of all think it's so cool that they introduce you guys, because not a lot of teams do that. But you graduated. You're at OSU, which was like, that's weird. And then I was in the gift shop, and someone said you're from Texas. So first, tell me a little bit about you and how you got into sports.
Well, for the longest time growing up, I did not want to be in sports. I wanted to actually be an equine vet. So I was on track to go to A&M and stay in Texas. And then I got a little bit older and realized all the things that you have to do as a large animal veterinarian. And I got a little squeamish.
Okay.
So I floundered for a couple years early in middle school and early high school. Wanted to be a lawyer for a bit, but didn't really go down that path. But I got really back into hockey in high school because I left it for a couple years. And I wanted to figure out a way to combine my passion and love for like helping people with my passion and love for sports. So that's kind of leading into how I got to my degrees. So I do go to Oklahoma State. I graduated in 2017 from Marcus High School in Flower Mound, Texas. And then went to Oklahoma State, and here we are. I'm going to be graduating early in 3.5 years with 2 degrees and a minor. So I have sports management and international business are my majors, and I also have a minor in marketing as well. So the goal has always been to hopefully work in hockey, but it started out as kind of a joke that I would end up here in Bismarck, North Dakota, but they called. And here I am.
So how did you find out about them in the first place? Like, I know like for affiliated minor league baseball, they go to the winter meetings and that's how you get a job. How did you find the Larks?
It was online. I mean, the new age of social media and social networking online. I went on Teamwork Online, which is like a really big sports job page that I got recommended to by my professor, my sports management professor. And I was just looking through, and there it was. And I just figured, why not? Why not apply? I mean, it was paid.
Which is nice.
They were going to give me housing and things. So I figured, it would be a great way to get out of my parents' hair for the summer and then not to have to worry about me because I would be, getting paid and just have a good time. And so even though we're not getting paid now, we're still having a good time here in Bismarck.
Right. So were you a baseball fan at all? Or was this just...
yeah. I love the Rangers. I'm a diehard
Okay,
Rangers
that ends the interview.
even though they, they're not the greatest MLB team.
They're also evil people.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. But, I still have to rep my hometown.
Of course.
DFW area teams. So I've always liked baseball. I just haven't ever, really been to as many baseball games as I have hockey games.
There's less blood in a baseball game typically.
Yes.
It might not be up your alley. So, your day-to-day, I was so impressed with what you guys pull off with the Larks. It felt like high energy the whole time, especially, factoring in that you have less people because of social distancing. So talk to me a little bit about your day-to-day job with the Larks. Like what it is that you do.
So my official title is I am a sponsorship promotions and entertainment intern. So when they were interviewing me, the funniest question that stuck out was when my main boss, one of my main bosses, Matt, was interviewing me. He said, well, could we dress you up as a shark? And I said, well, I guess if you're going to give me a job, I'll do whatever.
You basically pulled the Ghostbusters. If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say.
Sure, pretty much, yeah. And not even 2 weeks after being here, I was in a parade that we did, and I was dressed up as a shark.
Nice. So at least you followed through. What's your favorite part about doing that? Because, it's got to be...
It's the community, man.
Is it? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
It's so different, but it's so great. Like, the Larks are the only sports team for hundreds of miles. And people know it up here, and they come out and support like nobody's business. I have never seen a community rally, especially during a time like this, around a sports team ever like this in my life. It's like it's the Stanley Cup playoffs and it's Game 7 every day up here. People are just so excited to see the Larks or the Bull Moose or the Flickertails just play baseball. And I love that. Like, I love seeing people who are just so into sports, just like me, like just maniacal and fanatical about it. But dressing up in costumes, the best part about that is usually the kids. During that parade, all I can remember is hearing, "Oh my gosh, it's a shark! Oh my gosh, it's a shark!" And, so that just kind of makes my day that I can, make someone else's day by dressing up as a shark.
Your passion for this is why you're going to go far in all of it, because you seem like just legitimately fired up about it. That was the thing that I noticed too. And, my experience with this show has been, I grew up in Houston. I didn't know about anything other than the Astros, really. Yeah. And so discovering the fact that, this is why baseball, I think, is important, because it is played everywhere at all kinds of levels, and it does matter.
Well, it's America's sport. I just got done with a summer class and, I wrote my final essay on baseball because, the sport got really started here, and it's just been so intertwined within the American culture and the American way. Like, it's just amazing to see how it's evolved from, playing in Elysian Fields, New Jersey, where the first game was played in the 1800s, to now how we have so many minor leagues and so many different ways for all these players to just get better. Mm-hmm. I just think that's such a great way, to just enjoy your part of being an American, I guess.
It's so weird. I just recorded the opening for my monologue about that. It's almost exactly what I said. So, you're there now. So were you hired before the shutdown and then you found out you could so talk me through that process for you.
So I was hired. So I applied, I think like right after I got back to school for spring semester in like January or so. And I had the internship by late February. And so being in college, and being, graduating early like I am, so I've worked very hard, and I take a lot of hours to graduate early with 2 degrees instead of 1. I don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch TV. So it was late February, and I didn't really know what was going on. I wasn't watching the news. I wasn't, I was kind of in my own little bubble. Like Stillwater, Oklahoma, it's a lot like here, where in Bismarck, where you're kind of in your own little bubble away from the world. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know anything really bad was going on until I went home for spring break. And then when I went home for spring break, that's when I got the email that classes were going to be online for the rest of the semester. So I went back up to Oklahoma, packed up half of my apartment, and moved back to Texas. It was very scary. And it was very much of the unknown for my internship. But, Nate and John were very, open book about everything. And I really appreciated that. I could text them or call them at any time or email them, and they would get back to me within 24 hours. Any questions I had, any, concerns. And they did give us the option to leave. They said, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to be here. But, I sat down and I had that conversation with my parents, and, even though I knew that I wasn't going to be paid anymore, they were like, this is possibly the best opportunity for you, because I had seen all of my other friends lose their internships or lose their summer jobs. And the fact that we were still going, even though we didn't know that we were going to have a season, it said something to their character up here. And so it was something that I knew that I wanted to be a part of no matter what. So.
I think that you hit on something that I wish people really understood. And that is that I think when people hear about should baseball happen or should the NHL happen or the NBA, they immediately think about millionaires and billionaires. Mm-hmm. But this is your future. In the Larks means so much to that community as far as employment, but also morale. I mean, it is important that we have something to go back to. That point has been something that a main point of my degree, and something that I learned. Sports can make or break a community. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, if they're the biggest losers. Sports can bring people together. It doesn't matter what politics side you are. It doesn't matter, what skin color you are. Sports is the reason why I personally really think that, we have still held on to some point of sanity in this country. Right. And we need it back, because good Lord, we're going down a rabbit hole that I don't know if we can dig ourselves back out of. I think we will, because we have people like you going to be digging for us. So let's fast forward a little bit then. I know a lot of people, I've had players on talk about their collegiate summer league experience. Whether you're back at Bismarck next year or doing something else, are you going to take a little bit of this with you?
Oh, of course. I mean, the things that I've learned and the people that I've met, it's just, it's so hard to put into words. I've just learned so much, and it's been a very sink or swim experience. And I hope I'm swimming.
You seem to be swimming, so I think you're doing fine.
Yeah. But no, I love the people here. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be working in Bismarck, North Dakota, being from Texas, I just would have laughed in your face, because I never would have thought this is where life would have taken me. But boy, am I sure glad that it did.
So I have two questions for you then, to follow up. Do you know about is OSU, are you going back in person? Are you have you found out yet what your fall's going to look like?
Well, currently still kind of watching that situation, but my classes, being in the business school, they have all gone hybrid, as they call it, to where they technically, professors aren't allowed to take attendance. Oh, okay. Because you are not technically required to go to class. You are required to do the work, but it's basically going to be online learning. And with the current opportunities that I have here or with a job, I don't see a point in necessarily going back to Oklahoma if I can finish my degree online. So I would much rather in September, as soon as I finish the season here, start working and get a job.
You have checked the weather in North Dakota in December.
I have, yes. Okay, everyone has steered me away, but I'm a tough Texas girl. I think I can handle it.
I think you can handle anything. All right, last question then. What does the future hold? You're getting this degree, you're getting this combination of degrees. Like, do you want to own an NHL team? Like, what is your end goal?
My end goal would definitely be to be a marketing manager or something like that for an NHL team. Where we're going to start, though, is currently the real question. I actually just had a job interview yesterday with a car company, not a sports team. So We'll see where life takes us. But, something that my professor told me was, you may not always work in sports, but you can always work your way back into it. So, and if I'm here in Bismarck, I'll be around the Larks, and John knows my name. So I think I'll be all right.
Show me the merch, the best from the pro shop.
And welcome to another edition of Show Me the Merch on Let's Get To. And for those of you who are just listening to the podcast, this is the one area where I would suggest definitely checking out the YouTube video, because it's hard to do justice to just how wonderfully designed some of this merch is. Now, before we dive into it, I wanted to go ahead and dispel a couple of rumors, bad word, dispel maybe some questions people might have, and then answer the question of why during a pandemic do I spend what disposable income I have on minor league baseball, both unaffiliated and independent, as well as collegiate summer league baseball merch. And I think, first of all, no, it's very rarely free. I've sometimes been gifted additional things when I make a big purchase. Sometimes I don't let people know when that happens, because I don't want that to become the expectation on the club. Oh, I heard this guy got something for free, so there you go. But no, I don't really even ask for it. For me, I think in this pandemic, we have to take care of what we love. We have to understand that there's a pause that has to happen, and that we want the things that we love to be back here when we come out of this. And I've loved the baseball we got to see, but quite frankly, it's a lot less baseball than I had planned. And when we wrap up the season, which will be painfully early compared to last season for sure, I'm going to talk fondly about the baseball that I saw and try to move past what I was scheduled to see. But the fact remains, I did not see all the baseball we were supposed to see. And so for me, knowing that I'm not spending that money, that from time to time, I'm going to buy some stuff from some teams that I either follow already or admire, or in the case of an experiment that I kind of followed on Twitter, teams that I want to support. You should support your favorite small businesses. And to me, it's no different than picking a local restaurant over a Chili's. I do that all the time, and I do this with this as well. So we have two great teams that we're going to highlight today. And you can, for those of you again that are listening and don't want to watch the YouTube thing, I had to make the camera as wide as possible because the table that I'm usually at is literally full and overflowing. Took me no less than 10 minutes to get everything arranged. One of the balls kept falling. Lord Vader left the office, as he often does. And so we're going to start with the thing that is driving up the amount of money I spend on baseball stuff more than anything, my two grandkids. And so we got, as we often do, we get Braxton the stuffed mascot for whatever we go to. Braxton loves ball, and we are, I love that we get to share that with him, and he's very much an Astros fan, even at a very, very young age. And he's already taken a bit of abuse, verbal abuse, as people that follow the show know, people calling him a cheater and things like that. He's like 3 when it happened. So, but we are, I always try to get him a stuffed mascot, but apparently his new baby sister sometimes tries to take the mascots, and Braxton doesn't really like that. And so, of course, it means that now we get both. So I think Kennedy's going to like it, and we're very excited. We want everybody, all of our Let's Get To fans, Let's Get To Nation, if that's such a thing, keep your fingers crossed. We get to meet Kennedy. She was born during the pandemic in Oregon, so we get to meet her in about 10 days. And so we're hoping that if everything stays how it is, we're going to make the trip. But
she was born in March and we have not been able to meet her yet, and it's been painful. Again, we went to Bismarck and several items that we purchased. Now we start with the very traditional Bismarck Larks hat. And I love the look of the bird on the hat. And I love what they've done with this brand. Got one more Bismarck Larks hat as well. And this one I got for my wife. Now my wife has beautiful auburn hair. And it is one of her top 7 favorite features that I can mention on a family-friendly podcast. But anyway, but she's always looking for that perfect cute hat that she can pull the ponytail through. And I really thought this baseball hair don't care hat with the Larks brand on the back really worked for that. And then I think my last Larks thing, other than the flag, which I'm going to be honest, I bought the flag and then thought, what am I going to do with it? And then inspiration hit, and I'm going to use it as my table cover for at least the next few episodes. But I also get the logo baseball with the Larks logo on it. Now, to respond to the pandemic, Bismarck, as was ended up being modeled in several other collegiate summer league and independent ball areas, created a pod. And they created from scratch 2 new teams. They created the Bismarck Bull Moose, which is here. And I have the hat and I have the t-shirt. And one of the things is I love the look completely and totally, but the look on the t-shirt plays better because you see the detail more than you see on the ball cap. That's sort of the thing you run into with the ball cap sometimes. Too much detail just doesn't translate. And they also created for their sister city, the Mandan Flickertails. And I think that all levels of baseball could do for more squirrel mascots. So these are the things that we got in Bismarck. Now you're going to notice that there's 2 other hats up here. And so one of the things that I saw going on as a way to kind of create community and create support for some of these teams that we all love so much is that a lot of clubs or a lot of people on Twitter were like, first team to comment or retweet this or whatever, like it, I'll buy a hat. And so I did that with a couple of caveats. I think I opened it to 3 clubs. And then I said that the only caveat was you can't be a Texas League club. What I should have also said, you can't have the parent name of your club can't be the same as your parent name, because I just don't like that in minor league baseball, but didn't. And here I am. One of the teams that responded was actually a team that I've really followed for a while, that I've loved the brand design, and I'm trying to figure out a when to get there, is the Idaho Falls Chuckers. And so I got their alternative road hat, which I love the look of it. There are certain animals that just translate better to a baseball logo, and a bird is one of them. And then they also threw in their batting practice hat. Now, they did throw something else in. And this is maybe one of the coolest pieces of baseball merch that I own, the official Idaho Falls Chucker bar tool. My wife was a bartender. She says this is called a key, but it's magnetic. So I'm even going to open twist-offs with this. And I do want to point out something that Idaho Falls has going on, that you can do beer, food, and music on Wednesdays out at their ballpark, July 1st through August 19th. So still plenty of time to go and enjoy some semblance of a ballpark. I'll be honest too, when we built this show, we built it with at least the hopes of having some attempt at a strategy. And, we wanted to make sure that we were doing things right. We were doing things smart. And so one of the things that we really did was made a mental note of the teams that responded to the whole like and retweet and you get a hat. I think that we offer something very different in the baseball community. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I think that we're told that a lot. And I think we also produce a unique and high quality product. However, because of our decisions to not really be vested in Major League Baseball, to also not basically be a troll show where we do hot takes and generate anger likes, we want to build a community about baseball. So one of the things that we really have to do when we decide, particularly post-pandemic, when money is scarce, is we have to decide to support teams that feel like they're going to support us. By Idaho Falls doing this, it shows me that these guys are a good partner. And so
God willing and the creek don't rise, we will be at a Chuckers game covering it for you next year. And this is an invitation for anybody in your front office to come on the show. You are more than welcome. We would love to talk to you.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, a look into baseball's past.
And welcome back now to another edition of Raiders of the Lost Diamond, where we are going to take a pretty quick tour through the history of baseball in Bismarck. Yeah, we're going to stay in Bismarck after our amazing trip there this past week. Now, I know what you're thinking. A quick trip, isn't that all you get out of Bismarck in baseball history? And one of the things that I think I love the most about this franchise, about the Larks and about the ballpark, they are very, very aware and really want to educate you about their history, because the history of baseball in Bismarck is well over 125 years old. So baseball has been a central part of Bismarck, North Dakota since 1889, which was the date of the very first baseball Bismarck team photo ever taken. And one of the cool things when you go to the ballpark is they have placards that basically work around a good part of the outer concourse to educate you on basically 125 years of history. So we're going to touch on a little bit about this. But yeah, it's just a really great piece of, or a great part of the Bismarck Municipal Ballpark that they have this history walk. So it kicked off in 1889 with the Bismarck Reserves. And the first professional team started as a result of the Bismarck Baseball Association, and they ended up winning what was called the Missouri Slope League twice before World War I. And one of the things that's interesting is it really shows what baseball was like back then, when it wasn't the Major League Baseball and that every town had a team and that there were train stops. I mean, there was just baseball everywhere. Everybody was playing the sport. It really is how it became our national pastime. And it goes back to my opening monologue bit or the beginning of From the Bleachers, where I say, if all you're looking at is major leagues and then you think that's why it's the pastime, then you have it wrong. So after World War I, baseball came back, and then all of a sudden there were 20 teams in this Missouri Slope League. In 1930s, years before Jackie Robinson, integration came to Missouri Slope League, and including Satchel Paige playing for Bismarck and throwing 60 strikeouts and winning 4 games in the National Semi-Pro Baseball Tournament, which Bismarck would go on to win. 4 wins, 60 strikeouts. They don't do it like that anymore. In 1962, Bismarck became an affiliated minor league baseball team. They were called the Bismarck Pards, and they played as the Class C Northern League affiliate of the Minnesota Twins. Now, this is something that grabbed me and I thought was, at first triggered, I was like, oh great, here we go, trash can jokes. But thought it was so cool. So their last year as the Pards, they were the affiliate of the Houston Astros. So imagine my surprise when I'm taking this walk and then I come to a placard and it's all Astros baseball cards, players of which, my dad saw play. Like, that was really, really cool and really just, I don't know, it made me feel home, almost 2,000 miles away. So it was pretty neat. The team wasn't great, but they did have 7 players that would go on to become major league players, like Tom Griffin, Rorik Harrison, and Wayne Twitchell. Now, again, just imagine my shock. Houston kid, lifelong Astros fan. I'm always shocked when anybody's ever heard of the Astros before a certain tub thumping incident. And then to kind of see that so far away, it was really cool. And not to put too fine of a sort of morose tone on it, but sometimes these trips can be a little lonely. Jessica can't come with me all the time. And so you're kind of by yourself at a game that's meant to be watched in a community. And so it definitely made me feel a little bit like, aw, here I am. The team has seen American Legion baseball since 1945. There was another semi-pro team called the Dakota Rattlers. Super cool name, just didn't seem to stick. And now we have the Larks, the Bull Moose, and the Flickertails. The best part is, I really only touched on the very briefest of histories of Bismarck baseball. The episode's running a little long. I'm trying to keep things under an hour now that we're on the web. And so I couldn't get to everything. But
I'm going to include the link in the description of this podcast to a website that deals just with that and so much more. And it was dedicated to Dennis Boyd, who is Bismarck's baseball historian. And I love everything about that connection.
Who's on first? The Let's Get To Local 9. Brought to you by Marco Fine Arts.
So we're excited to welcome to our Who's on First segment, Victoria Huggins from the Woodpeckers. And I do have to let everybody know, she demanded a wardrobe change, and I made a wardrobe change. I don't do that for anybody, Victoria.
Hey, I'm on Let's Get To. We've got to have some Woodpeckers representation, and you're one of our number one fans. So thank you for obliging with my request, because guess what? One of my favorite things to wear when I'm not at the stadium is my Let's Get To podcast t-shirt.
Then turnabout is in fact fair play. I think whenever all of this happened, I think I felt the most for you and for the whole Woodpeckers team, because you had an amazing first season.
We did.
And you were pivoting into, you had your Copa identity, which I did order the jersey for. Like, how did everybody take it when it finally just looked like we weren't going to have baseball?
Well, like you said, after coming off of the high of our incredible inaugural season, I mean, we brought 250,000 people to downtown Fayetteville. We earned the Ballpark of the Decade Award from Baseball Digest. We had all of these honors for our philanthropy and the things that we were doing in the community from local, state, and national levels. So we were just so excited to be able to carry that over into our second season. But then, unfortunately, COVID happened, and we were just trying to, be patient, make sure that we follow everything that the authorities were sharing with us. But I'm very grateful that we are an affiliate of the Houston Astros, because they have done a phenomenal job with, number one, keeping us informed, but number two, also giving all of the employees the security, knowing that our jobs were safe, knowing that we were valued, and that our safety of our families and us as individuals and our fans were of their utmost priority. So I'm very grateful to be an Astros employee, but everything that we were planning for 2020, we are rolling over into 2021, but even bigger and better. So you never know what we're going to unroll on the Woodpeckers red carpet, so stay tuned.
I'm excited about that. I do think that was something I did recognize, that a lot of other teams in your league, they're essentially small businesses, but you guys at least were, you didn't feel like the Astros could at least have your back as far as keeping, like you said, keeping you guys employed and all of that stuff. You guys have adapted well with gear. Talk a little bit about how popular the face masks have been, the Woodpeckers face masks.
Oh my gosh, our face masks have just blown up. We are so grateful for the way that our fans have, embraced their spirit of how proud they are of their local team, and they have purchased these face masks to be able to protect themselves in style, the most stylish minor league baseball team out there. So we actually have the original kind, that's just with our regular bird head original logo, and then we just debuted this past week our alternative logo, which is my personal favorite because I'm a North Carolina girl. So anytime that you see the state of North Carolina and that gold star over Fort Bragg and Fayetteville and the woodpecker head, it just makes me so happy. And I understand that you actually have one being shipped to you.
Well, we have one of each. So I guess Jessica and I are going to fight over who gets which one. And it's funny because we had scheduled this, and I think I sent the first email a year to the day that we were out there. And so we were out there for 4th of July weekend, and it was just it's been a whole bittersweet ride for everyone.
Absolutely.
I know that you guys are going to find out next week, but you know what? How about an exclusive? We are naming who we think should have won every division in baseball. We've already done the Texas League. Congratulations for being the Carolina League championships according to the Let's Get To simulation.
Yes! Oh, I love it. That is awesome.
We're going to get a graphic made and get it out to you guys. It'll be fun.
Thank you. That means so much to us. And as a matter of fact, we're actually working on a little thing that I think that you will appreciate. We've got T-shirts that are going to be debuting later this week that say 2020 undefeated season Fayetteville Woodpeckers. So
I'm all about that. You can pencil me in for one. So
well, you just have to see the glass half full. we all were disappointed and we wanted to be able to play ball. But, we have tried to figure out ways, especially in the Fayetteville community, because we are at the epicenter of the world with the largest military installation at Fort Bragg, just, literally 10 minutes from the gates of our stadium. So we've been really being active, I know, with my participation being the manager of community and media relations, to see, since we can't play ball, what can we do? So just yesterday, we presented a check for $10,000 to one of our prestigious military organizations that hosts military children for summer camp. And we provided scholarships and the money for them to be able to sanitize and have all the supplies that they need to have a safe and engaging, socially distant summer camp version this year. And then we've also partnered and done a community chicken sale with Mount Air Farms of North Carolina, providing over 600 cases of chicken for people in our community who needed it. So it's really been an inspiration to be able to think outside of the diamond, if you will, no pun intended, of just how we can still be able to positively impact not just inside of our stadium, but beyond.
Well, just knowing you a little bit, that seems very important to you, helping people. Has it been sort of a fun challenge to figure out how can we fill those gaps? Like you talk about the money to sanitize. I didn't think about that to this minute. All of a sudden, we've put a financial impetus on businesses to say, to be open, less people, and you have to be clean and all that stuff. So has that been sort of fun, finding new ways to fill those gaps?
I love a challenge. And I think that with me personally being a military child, that's one thing that I've always prided myself upon, that my dad always taught me, and so did my mom being a military spouse. You have to be prepared for all scenarios, all situations, and be able to do the very best of your ability with what you're given. And that's really how our Woodpeckers family has, looked at this situation. And all of our departments have done an outstanding job with keeping our season ticket holders informed, making sure our sponsors are taken care of, and our indoor staff, our maintenance and our management. They have done a phenomenal job sanitizing that stadium from head to toe. It is absolutely gorgeous. And I hate that we have to work from home, because we get these pictures from our manager of field operations, Alpha Jones, and the field is so beautiful where he has it so gorgeous. And I wish we could play ball. But, it's just one of those things where you just have to buckle down, do your best, and hope for the best. And that's basically what we've done.
I think that one of the things you guys need a lot of credit for too, and I'll give this credit to minor league baseball across the board, but you guys in particular, your social media presence, your social media has been a really nice spot of positivity in a world where there, quite frankly, hasn't been a lot of positivity to go around.
Thank you. Thank you. Ben Hughes, he's our manager of communication, and of course our marketing director, Pete Subsera, and then we have a phenomenal graphics director, Ryan Lefevre, and Matt Dean, our broadcaster, this was supposed to be his first year as the voice of the Woodpeckers. And all five of us, we're always on conference calls and text messages and group threads of what can we do? How can we bring smiles to our fans' faces? And what can make us stand out? And just the wheelhouse of creativity that has developed between us and that sense of trust has been phenomenal to be a part of. And I think that has really made us a stronger unit, so that, when things do get back to normal, I think that we're even going to be better and on our A game even more so than what we were before. So I'm glad you've been enjoying our content. Did you see our virtual opening day that we did?
I did. I did a whole thing with the show, and you guys were one of the ones we checked in on. And I basically I felt bad for my wife. She took a photo of me in every minor league jersey and T-shirt and hat that I had, and I did a montage of as these things were going. I don't know. I just felt like
that's dedication.
Well, and it is, and I feel like it's something that, particularly as we watch the major leagues kind of fight in public over things that you and I can't understand. We don't understand millionaires and billionaires fighting. People need baseball, and that nothing has been more evident than Round Rock turning into a collegiate summer league for the year to watch those kids play. And so I think I really applaud you guys. You could have easily taken a knee on the year, but instead you dove into it, and that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. And I just can't wait until, we get the green light from our state authorities and the CDC and, of course, from the Astros so that we can do even more. Because right now, we're kind of in that waiting period to make sure that everyone would be safe. So once we do get that green light, though, we have some phenomenal plans in place that we want to implement and hopefully, continue to encourage the community and be an outlet for positive family entertainment in a place where, unfortunately, you go some places and you don't have that positivity like you were talking about. So we're looking forward to that day, and we're hoping that it'll be tomorrow. But whenever it does come, the Woodpeckers will be ready.
All right, so my last question for you then. I know you're getting ready to prepare for 2021. You're still dealing with 2020. But a lot of your former alums might get a chance to play in the big leagues because of how they structured that. Is that cool for you, like people you saw in your first year?
We are so excited, and we couldn't be prouder. I mean, for 13 of our Fayetteville Woodpeckers alumni to actually be on that roster for summer camp with the Houston Astros, and they're right there in Minute Maid Park right now going through all the exercises. We're beaming. I mean, it's just a phenomenal testament to the minor league baseball organization and the system, and how you can see, Brian Abreu on our opening day on the mound for the first game at Segra Stadium. And then all of a sudden, he's on the roster for the World Series with the Houston Astros and has a chance to become a permanent member this year. It's phenomenal. And to be able to give that to our fans and have them looking at the screens and saying, I know him, I think that's phenomenal for the Fayetteville community. So we're very blessed.
On deck, the Let's Get To interview, brought to you by Fine Line Sportswear.
We're excited to welcome Let's Get To. It is our privilege to welcome the president of the Round Rock Express, Chris Almendarez. Chris, how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me. We're coming off these two first Texas collegiate games. It's been a little tiring, so just kind of get my body acclaimed to everything, but we're doing okay.
You guys really killed it, though, to use the lamest baseball pun in the baseball media. You knocked it out of the park, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about you, though. Like, you're heavy into baseball. So when did you first fall in love with the game? How did you first kind of get into it and then end up being a president of a minor league baseball team?
It's funny. I grew up in Humble, which is about 20 miles north of Houston. So I was a diehard Houston Astros fan growing up. I had an older brother that played T-ball, and my earliest memories of baseball is going to his practices and wanting to be just like him. He was 2 years older. I quite wasn't ready to compete with those guys when he was 5. I was 3 when he started. 2 years into it, I started playing baseball T-ball at 5 years old, and when I was 7 years old, I really loved playing, and I had kind of a natural ability for it. But when I was 7, the Houston Astros actually traded for or signed the biggest free agent at the time, and that was Nolan Ryan. And Nolan had won a World Series with the New York Mets in 1969. He was the first pitcher to throw 100 miles per hour. He was actually the first $1 million baseball player. When the Astros signed him in 1979, 1980, it was a 4-year deal for $4 million. But the thing that stood out more than anything with Nolan was when I looked on the back of his baseball card, he shared the same birthday, January 31st, as I did. And so for some reason, I always thought that Nolan and I would be connected along the way. It was kind of a crazy thought as a 7-year-old in Humble. Lo and behold, years later, we would connect, and I got a chance to run his baseball team thanks to his sons, Reed and Reese.
That's awesome. It's so funny to me. I remember that too, signing him. And then I remembered my very first time. You learn a lot about life as a baseball fan. And when he left, I was so mad that I remember telling my mom, he's too old anyway, and he'll never do anything good anymore anyway, and the Rangers can have him. And, of course, boy, that was wrong. I want to talk a little bit more about you and your connection to the game. I don't know that I've ever interacted someone more passionate about baseball than you. But before we jump into that, you are the president of the Round Rock Express. The Round Rock Express aren't playing. How did you guys pivot so fast into the TCL and going to play as the Harrymen?
One of the things when you go through this and kind of looking at our vision is, the baseball season whatever it was going to be, if it was going to be shortened, we make our revenue from April to September. So one of the things we had to do is go, what are some other events that we can host? We know we've done concerts, we've done soccer, we've done, we did the season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead out here a couple of years ago. We filmed that. So, the tough part this time was, Major League Baseball could say, hey, you guys are playing, and we had to be ready the next day. And so the thing for me was going back to the integrity of the field. What can we do at our stadium to keep the integrity of the field? And so, we were really limited just because, you didn't want to do something that would mess the field up. One, because to convert the field to whatever event you were going to do. And then the bigger thing was to convert it back and the cost, to do that. We just didn't have the resources. And so we were sitting in just some blue skies meetings. And one of the things we talked about was, man, let's just open the field up to field rentals, batting practices, and things like that the everyday person, might want to come out and do. And, we actually ran a number of, private practices for select teams. And, we had groups of people coming out for batting practice. And it was fun. I think the one thing that people got was perspective of how big Dell Diamond is. And when you get out, try to swing and you can't make it in the infield, you're like, wow, these kids and these folks that come out and play, for the Round Rock Express or for this collegiate league, it's something big what they're doing. And so we had talked about maybe hosting some high school select baseball tournaments. And the guys out of San Antonio, actually the president of the Flying Chanclas and the San Antonio Missions, Burrow Yarborough, he had reached out and said, hey, what do you think? We're thinking about doing this collegiate baseball league. The Texas Collegiate League's been around. And they said, we're talking about expanding and they want to visit with you guys. And at first we were like, I don't know, does that pencil out? Does it work? And then the more we thought about it, my personal connection, my son Luke is actually a freshman at the University of Houston, and he was supposed to go play in Maryland at the Cal Ripken Wood Bat League. And so I had a couple of things going for me going, wow, we've got to figure out ways to generate, revenue playing baseball. But the other thing is my son's season's going to be canceled. And, the last time he had a live at bat was in Vegas against UNLV back on March 10th. And so, right. Okay, I was like, this actually could work. We could get some local kids. We think we could get a draw. And we reached out to the Texas Collegiate League and the president, Yuri, and said, hey, look, we're open to this. Let's talk about it. And then the next thing you know, we're starting to recruit kids left and right. And my older son, Chase, who oversees all of our amateur baseball here for the Express, just was a perfect fit to be the manager. And he's 24 years old, but probably one of the most mature 24-year-old kids you would meet. And he started reaching out to folks, and he's coached some of our Express select teams. So both him and Luke had a good network of kids and knew what we were about. And who wouldn't want to play at Dell Diamond? So that's kind of came about. And man, we're 2 weeks in. I think we're 5-3. So we're pretty excited.
Speaking of the playing at Dell Diamond, the one thing my wife noticed is, we're watching the first inning when you all playing Victoria 2 nights ago. And she said, I swear, the Victoria kids were not watching the game. They were just looking around and looking at how big. And it was really cute, actually. It was really sweet. And I think my hope is collegiate baseball is so big everywhere in the country. I hope that this helps it take root here, that people realize it's good baseball. It's a lot of fun to watch. Speaking of your son, Chase, so I had asked him at the media day, and I asked you the same question. He gave an excellent answer then. Why is it important? Why is it important that we're playing baseball beyond Round Rock, beyond y'all's needs? Why is it important for regular people that this is an option they can go watch baseball? And I've said this in a couple interviews, and look, my personal story and my boy's personal story, in 2015, June 28th of 2015, life was great. I was the general manager of the Round Rock Express, and my wife, Jana, had early in the month had started having some low temperatures, low fevers, and some mild headaches. And it turned out when we finally went in, she had a brain tumor, and it was diagnosed as a glioblastoma, which is one of the worst kinds of tumors you can have. It was very aggressive. And, when you go through something like that and you get that news, look, we're all going through adversity in our lives. And Jana got it. And the one thing that Jana, actually said was, we're going to show people how you deal with adversity. Reed Ryan, who was the president of the Astros at the time, reached out to me that second day, and he was, really supportive, but said, hey, Chris, I really think we need to get this out on social media. What do you think? And I said, well, let me visit with Jana. Jana was a little more private, and we talked, and she said, absolutely. And so the first tweet Reed sent was Jana was going in for a biopsy to kind of see what it was. And he called me that morning, and I said, yeah, Jana's good. And so he shot a tweet out,
And it just said, please pray for my good friend Jana Almendarez as she goes in for surgery to look at this tumor. And my cousin in Houston kind of retweeted and just put hashtag, go Team Jana. And it just kind of kicked off. And, I say that and I tell that story. It's part of our story. But the thing, as Jana was fighting for her life and dealing with this brain tumor, she would go to, she'd have radiation, at lunchtime and take her chemotherapy. And, in the evening, she was really tired and would just go to sleep. I kind of went part-time. But the thing I was able to do is I was able to get out to Dell Diamond and just get up into the owner's suite and just kind of hang out by myself and watch this game. And, it was always a chance for me to kind of reflect on what baseball meant to me in my life. It was it's always been a great vehicle for me. It was a bond between myself, and it's connecting me with the most unbelievable people in my life. I lost my dad when I was 21 years old in a car wreck, and it was actually the first date that I ever had with Jana. And so the times in my life was really low. It was baseball that kind of got me through it. And then it was God had put this amazing lady in my life, and she was my rock for all these years. And look, she gave me the best two gifts in my life. And it was my two boys. It was Chase and Luke. And look, our family was bonded because of the game of baseball. And then in 2000, I met Reed in 2002, and in 2006, we started coaching Luke and Jackson together, and our families just connected. And Jana was a teacher in Round Rock, and we knew a lot of folks. And in 2009, Reed was like, hey, look, I was working in pharmaceuticals, and I had an opportunity that we actually got bought out, and I had a severance and an opportunity to kind of look at a different industry. And he said, look, why don't you, it's time you come work for us. You know everybody in town, and you're passionate about baseball. And man, I've never looked back. They gave me that opportunity. I came in as a senior account executive and selling corporate partnerships. And, 6 months later was promoted to a director. And then 2 years later, the assistant GM, 2 years later to general manager. And then, the great thing about my promotion to team president, it was October 2015. So Jana was still alive when that happened. So look, she is a big part of my success. And there's never a day that I don't think of her. I miss her. 5 years out, from her diagnosis and 4 years from her death, my focus was my boys, and the game of baseball was kind of our thing to kind of get away. So kind of a long way to answer your question, but, what we're going through right now with this, with COVID and just the stay-at-home orders and people being, in quarantine back at home, I think folks need an outlet to get out. And look, we're all going to go through adversity and uncertainty. And that's a lot of the things I dealt with in 2016 when she was sick. And so my boys and I have kind of gone through this, the anxiety of what's the next test going to say, or how she's doing. And, not saying that makes it easier what we're going through right now, but in life, this is not the worst thing we've gone through. And so, we can get out there. The boys know how to carry themselves in adversity. And look, we're just trying to make the most of it. Both boys had a chance to be bat boys out here, and this is kind of their backyard. So now playing here, it's kind of full circle. There have been some pretty cool moments. Last Tuesday in Bryan College Station when I saw you, that was neat when the boys, got out there for the first time and just playing something they loved, and more importantly, something that their mom loved them to watch. And that Thursday on Chase's first win was the 26th anniversary of the day my father was killed. And so those are some special memories. And look, those are things that for us as a family have helped us in getting through what we've gone through.
I wanted to ask that about too, like as a dad, how proud is it to watch your sons being together, and then for Chase to get his first win?
It's funny. I was Tuesday night as our home opener. I was watching the game, and look, we're short staffed and we're trying to do as best we can to get people in and out here safely. And there was a chance where I could actually sit down. One of the things it's important to me is trying to greet every fan that walks in the door, to thank them for the support and letting them know, hey, we're going to be as safe as we can. We've got our mask on. I've had gloves on, but it was late in the game. I had a chance to kind of sit in the Dell premium seats right behind home plate. And last night, one of my staff members said, hey, I want to send you something. I surprised you. He took a picture of me just sitting there, and it happened to be, you could see Chase walking up and Luke at bat, and Chase was coaching third. And, last night I looked at that picture and I thought, man, how cool is it that I get to experience this with my boys. I'm hosting for the U of H kids at my 2-bedroom apartment. So
wow.
in about a month, and I'll tell you how it is. I'm building a house in Georgetown. And it just happens. It's going to be done in 2 months, right when this thing ends. And sure enough, I've got those kids. But look, we'll look back at the summer of 2020 and go, man, how crazy was that year? But man, how great was that summer to kind of sit back? And that's a commitment we made to these kids and saying, look, you guys are going to play for us. We're going to give you guys the best, kind of a little minor league experience and just, teach them the ropes on how we do things here at Dell Diamond.
One of the things I think that's impressed me about your whole operation, I mean, since I've been covering you guys, but I've become pretty friendly with Andrew Feltz. And when I was talking to him before media day, he said, just treat them like they're big leaguers. And I think you guys have done that to a degree where it's going to be something they're going to, like, you're right. It could have been a disastrous summer for them and you made it not that way. And I think you need to be applauded for it.
Well, I thank you. And look, that comes straight from the top, from our ownership group, from Nolan Ryan and Don Sanders and the Ryan Sanders group. One of the things that I learned, I had a couple years here when I first started with Reed being in my position. And look, Reed's the best of the best on how he runs an organization. And, the one thing that we do every year when the kids break, when the professional guys break camp is we have a team meeting with them. And that's the goal. We walk into the locker room and we tell them, look, we know that your ultimate goal is to get to the next level, to the major league level. But while you're here, our goal is to become the 31st, Major League Baseball team and treat folks when they come play at the Round Rock Express to go, wow, those guys do it good. And there's no better gratification for me in the game of baseball than to get these guys, Brett Nicholas and Jared Hoying and these guys that, might be some free agents that they want to finish and play that last year here to go, man, if you're going to play in AAA, you want to play at Round Rock because those guys do it great. And look, we just kind of took that mentality and said, hey, with these college kids, they had a lot of them, their college seasons were cut short. And then now they were excited. They got excited to play college summer ball. And some kids were going to the Cape and some kids were in Maryland and some kids were in California going, look, we're going to do it here. We're going to do it the best we can. And we've also there's some social responsibility for them saying, look, when you're here, you got to take care of yourself. We got those kids tested when they first came in, saying, look, we're going to create our own little bubble. We're going to keep you safe. And you guys got to make great decisions when you're not playing baseball. There's not a lot of time, as many games as we're playing in 30 days.
Right.
So on the Mondays they're off, saying, look, don't go into Austin. Don't go places where you shouldn't be.
Well, I guess, Chris, as we wrap up, we've got a handful of games left. Real quick, why should people come out to the Dell and check it out?
I think it's a couple of things. Look, sports has always been the thing that when anything's going wrong in the world to get away from whatever you're going through. And I used to tell folks, our staff, look, for 3 hours, we got the opportunity to open Dell Diamond's gates and our front door and invite people in and whatever they're going through. They could be going through a job loss, a divorce, losing a spouse. But for 3 hours, we're going to try to give them the best entertainment we can and just to watch baseball. And look, a lot of people have thanked us as they're coming in this week saying, just thanks for taking these measures and taking this risk to make it safe for us to come in and watch baseball. And, I think that's one. I think it's a for mental health, I think it's a great opportunity for people just to kind of get out and get in you were here the other night, to get in the fresh air and, grab a cold beer and a hot dog or whatever that might be. And then the other thing is doing it for our staff and our fans. And then, for those kids, like you said, the players that are out there, they're playing baseball. If you really want to get back to the true meaning of why these kids play baseball for the love of the game, come out here. They're exciting. We had two of the UH kids hit home runs last night. And when they were in Amarillo, they bought this Spartan helmet or something. And as the kids come running around, they're putting that helmet on them. And it's just fun. The crowd goes wild. And that's what it's about. We want to make sure, if you look at our true mission statement, it's to grow the game of baseball and bring joy to folks through the game of baseball. And I think that's kind of always what my ultimate goal is. When I put my head down on the pillow every night, the thing I want to make sure is, one, do I represent the Ryans in the way that they want to do this? And two is are we doing something that helps people in their lives? And right now, I think we got the all eyes are on us to do this. And I'm confident in our staff. You follow me on social media. I always, two things I always post are hashtag best staff in baseball or hashtag baseball family. And that's what it is. Anybody that comes in and grabs my card. Long ago, I put my cell phone on my card, unfortunately. So everybody's got my cell phone, but look, we're truly friends. And, we tell folks, look, man, you come in and you support us. You're part of the baseball family. And that's what you've been. Andrew said great things. I know you've interviewed Tim Jackson, and look, that's what it is. We appreciate what you do and to grow this game. And I think we all need it right now.
on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So that does wrap us up. I want to start by thanking all of our guests this week. I want to thank Chris, Victoria, and Bailey for jumping on. I want to thank all the teams that opened up their doors to us this week. For this episode, we'll take that time to thank the Bismarck Larks and John Bollinger for really just giving us access and treating us like family. And it was a great time. And again, one of those reasons why I think baseball in towns like this is where it's most pure and it's most special. We do have a couple of bits of business to get to. First, we get to add some new teams to our map. So here we go. I started tracking this map last season. It does backdate to teams I went to go see before Let's Get To was a show, but it's exciting to add teams in both North Dakota and in Illinois. Cornbelters, the Bull Moose, the Flickertails, and we're going to go ahead and add the Larks, even though we didn't actually get to see them play. We're going to go ahead and add the Hairy Men to the Round Rock area because different team, different league. Then we have one other bit of business to conclude. As you know, if you've been following, we've been doing our simulation of how we believe the affiliated minor league baseball season would have ended up. And we are going to award our simulated Let's Get To official division winners, or league winners, I should say. So for the International League, we're going to give that title. We really believe that the Norfolk Tides would have taken it this year. We really think they were going to do great things. One of my favorite brands in the league. I'd love to have them on the show. And that's one of those like check marks I got to get out there someday to see a game. In the Carolina League, we've already announced it on the show. In the Northwest League, the Braxton's hometown team, I guess, the Hillsboro Hops. So congratulations to Hillsboro. And in the Pioneer League, the Idaho Falls Chuckers. So that does wrap us up for this episode. We've got a great episode coming for you next week. We are going to be talking to Ryan Hernandez, first baseman for the Round Rock Hairy Men. We are going to be talking a little Go-Go Astros, Andy Tom Chesson's a little morose. We're going to be talking our trip to Fargo Moorhead to see the Red Hawks. And it looks like D.B. Sweeney, star of 8 Men Out as Shoeless Joe Jackson himself, will be coming on the show. God willing and the creek don't rise. That's the second time I've used that phrase this episode. Might be the fourth time I've used that phrase my entire life. So until Friday, stay safe, stay sane, and let's get to.